Hi everybody, I'm Ryan. Today we're going to talk about sideboarding with bitter creativity, which is an amazing new version of the creativity archetype. We're going to go through the top 10 most prominent decks in Modern and how you would sideboard against them with my version of bitter creativity. Hopefully you'll be able to take some of these sideboarding tips and use them for the other less prominent decks in Modern and other ways of cheating Archon on the battlefield. Let's do it. So the most popular deck in Modern is Murktide. Against Murktide, they're mostly trying to interact with us with removal spells and counter magic and then just applying a lot of pressure. So all I want to do is I'm totally okay with playing their game. We're going to play 4 Veil of Summer so that we can win counter wars. We're going to shave on these not hand helping cards because like it can be interrupted really easily with Spell Pierce. They're still really solid to have in our deck, especially for these long games. But it's something I'm not really super interested in. And we're going to shave on 1-mana removal spells. So 1-mana removal spells are very, very good against the Regivan hands and get significantly worse as the game goes on. So we're just going to cut back on those. The second most popular deck is Hammer Time. Against Hammer Time, we are obviously bringing in our Artifact and Enchantment Hate in Nature's Claim, Boseiju, Brotherhood Hand. Hitasugu is also pretty solid against Hammer Time, especially like when it can snipe a Sigarda's Aids. Some versions of Hammer Time play blue and play counter magic, but I'm okay with like just letting them do their thing with that. Against Hammer Time, I do not like Fable of the Mirror Breaker at all. It is too slow, and if we're tapping out on turn 3 for Fable, then we are likely going to die the next turn. I'm not interested in that. And we are cutting Thoughtseizes. Thoughtseize would be only ever good on turn 1 against this deck. Maybe. There's a lot of redundancy in the deck, so Thoughtseize ends up getting a lot worse. Also, it deals damage to us, so we like can't win those close games. I'm not interested in that. I'd rather keep in all of my removal, keep in all of my combo, and keep in all of my interaction with him, and just take out everything else that is just like cute. The third most popular deck is Scam. Against the Scam deck, we are bringing in Serra's Emissary because they play Necromentia out of the sideboard. And we are bringing in Veil of Summer for the Thoughtseize and Grief effects so that we can just do our thing. If we can weather the storm of the first few turns, normally we win the game against Scam. That being said, they normally puke their hand on the battlefield pretty quick, so I really hate Thoughtseize in the matchup. And we're just going to shave on removal so that we can make sure we're able to kill our opponent all the time. And we're going to shave just Veil Push because Lightning Bolt, besides a Undyed Fury, Lightning Bolt can kill everything else in the deck. The fourth most popular deck is the Mirror Match. You're going to bring in 4 Veil of Summers, the Necromentias, and the Serra's Emissary. So the Necromentia, because you can say Archon or even Creativity, and it makes it very difficult for them to do their thing. Serra's Emissary, because Archon does nothing to us anymore. They can't even target us with the ability if Serra's Emissary is out, so they need to be able to Leyline Binding it. I am not interested in removing stuff in response to Creativity or Transmogrify. That's not the route I want to take in this matchup. So I actually cut the Lightning Bolts. I cut the Fatal Pushes, and I cut the Terminate. I would much rather just like focus on stopping my opponent from doing it in the first place through Necromentia and Thoughtseize and being able to get my stuff out much faster than my opponent. Against Burn, which, man, on paper feels like a really bad matchup, but I have a winning record against it, knock on wood. I like siding in the 2 Nature's Claims. The 2 Nature's Claims, one it's like a fine removal spell for Eidolon, but also if you can hit your Fable or your Bitter Reunion with a Nature's Claim, gaining that 4 life can kind of just like really, really matter. And I like bringing in a Serra's Emissary. Serra's Emissary is kind of interesting because you can say, most of the time you'll say instant, but it blanks most of the cards in your opponent's deck, and very often they don't have removal for it. So if we can do an early Serra's Emissary, sometimes it's just better than an early Archon that very, very often just gets skullcracked. And we are just going to save 3 of the Thoughtseizes. Thoughtseize is fine in the matchup, especially if you have the Thoughtseize yourself turn 1, persist turn 2 hand. But generally, it's just a wasted card. I'd rather just have cards that actually do stuff, rather than just a card that saves a single damage. Against Rhinos, we are bringing in Serra's Emissary, 1, because if we say creature, the Rhinos do nothing. It doesn't matter how much power is on the battlefield, and they need to remove it with a Leyline Binding. And 2, a lot of the decks play Necromentia out of the sideboard. Speaking of Necromentia, we are bringing in Necromentia because if we give Crashing Footfalls, they are just a bad mid-range deck, and we crush bad mid-range decks. And we are bringing in our 4 Veil of Summer because Veil of Summer, if we're able to like stop them from countering our stuff, which is what they sideboard into, we win the game. We're bringing out the 4 Lightning Bolts because it doesn't hit anything. We're bringing out the Fatal Pushes because it doesn't hit anything relevant. And we're actually going to bring out the Terminate because All in all, we don't really care about killing our opponent's creatures. If they play a creature, often they're going really, really wide with those creatures. And we'd rather just be trying to Archon as hard as we can. Against the 4-color Omnath deck, we are bringing in Veil of Summer for the counter magic. And that is it. Lightning Bolts are just horrible in the matchup. It's fine against the Planeswalkers, but still not even very good. I would rather be playing the Fatal Pushes for the Omnaths and leaving it at that. Against Yawgmoth, which is actually a pretty bad matchup, to be totally real, we are bringing our Sarah's Emissary because they play Necromentia out of the sideboard very often. We are playing Necromentia because if they get Yawgmoth on the battlefield, then literally, like, we cannot creativity them. Like, the game is very much over, and they can kill us out of nowhere with Yawgmoth. And we are going to play Brotherhood's End because, especially on the play, if we wipe away a bunch of their mana dorks, it can just win the game a lot of the times. Or if we undie a bunch of their creatures, it makes it harder for them to combo with the Yawgmoth stuff. That being said, spot removal is actually pretty bad if it's not on mana dorks. They're like taking out the Terminate, and they puke their hand on the battlefield pretty quick. So I'm not super interested in Thought Seizes. I'll just deal with what is going on the battlefield when it happens. Just make sure that you are removing their mana dorks with your 1 mana removal spells. That's the game plan I want to be on. Amulet Titan is the 9th most popular deck in the format. Against Amulet Titan, we are bringing in Sarah's Emissary because if we say creature, it's really solid. It means they can't kill us with Cultivator, Colossus, or Titan. If we say land, then they can't kill us with Valakut, so they kind of have to pick a side there. Again, we'll say whatever we need to situationally. We're playing Necromentia, so we can either say Valakut or Primeval Titan. It can really stop them from doing their thing. We are bringing in our Nature's Claim and our Besejus for Amulet. We're not going to bring in Brotherhood's End or Hitasugu for Amulet because 3 mana is really a lot. Nature's Claim and Beseju. Hopefully we'll deal with the Amulet of Vigors. We're going to bring out Lightning Bolt because it does literally nothing but deal damage to our opponent and kill Arboreal Grazers, which you're not interested in. We're going to bring out our Fatal Pushes because, like, while it can kill a Dryad, I am mostly worried about the big boys, if you will. And we'll just cut an Archon of Cruelty because the games very often don't go long. You don't need a ton in your hand. You don't need a ton in your deck. We can just go to 4 targets. And the last deck that we're going to talk about in the 10th most popular deck in Modern is Domain Zoo. So we're bringing in Sarah's Emissary because Domain Zoo does very little. If you're able to say creatures or situationally instants or sorceries, you can just win. One caveat is they do play Leyline Binding, so you got to be a little careful about that. Depending on what version of them and depending on the hand that they draw, Brotherhood's End can be really solid against them. That being said, they're a pretty fast, just like swarmy, bigger than they should be creature deck. So we want to keep in all our removal, keep in all our combo, and we're just going to be shaving on Thought Seizes. They play out their cards. We don't need to interrupt them. We just need to focus on doing our thing more efficiently. But there you have it. The way I sideboard against the top 10 most popular decks in Modern with this new version of creativity with bitter creativity. If this video was helpful for you, if you liked it, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.